if there's an area of your life where you're like, man, I really want to change this area, and I've tried everything, maybe what you need to change, you need to realize is the reason you're still struggling or there's still a challenge in that area is we actually do what we believe. And our beliefs affect, and how we think about things, how we think about ourselves has everything to do with how we change our behavior. So nothing that really matters can be learned with one exposure. I want to talk to you a little bit about the way we learn. I'm actually heading right now to church, actually, for I think what's going to be our last live Saturday service. I don't know. We can't predict anything right now, but we opened up another service on Saturdays just so we can kind of spread out with social distancing. So, I was on a business call earlier with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and one of the things that came up in that conversation was how we learn. How do we learn? And so I want to just give you a nugget of wisdom related to this whole idea of learning and how we do it. Before I do that, I just left my house and noticed that there was something on the TV screen about, just people pulling down statues all over the country. And I just got to tell you, from my perspective, I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And the reason I say that, pull down all the statues, I don't really care. I mean, the reason I say it's dumb is there's a lot better ways, in my opinion, to spend your time. And most of the people that are pulling down these statues have no idea what these statues are. It's just something exciting, I guess, for them at the moment. But, as I thought about that, I thought, people are doing a lot of these things because they have free time. And ultimately, there's no fear of God, in the sense that there's no concern about what happens after this life, the consequences of our actions. And so once you have an environment or a culture or a society where people don't care about being held accountable. Jasmine, why are you hiding from the camera? You don't want to be on camera? No. Oh, okay. When you have environments like that, then anything is possible. But anyway, how do we learn? So the idea that I want to leave with you today is simply this. You and I don't learn things that matter by being exposed to them once. You can't learn things that matter by being exposed to it once. Which requires, I was asking my daughter in the back, as I jumped in the car, how do we learn? And what did you say? Repetition. She said repetition. So, in your mind, you understand that we have to be exposed to something more than once in order to learn it. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. And I agree with that. I think through repetition, right? And so, the idea that you can be exposed to something, information, material, a book, a podcast, a YouTube video, some of these things some of you have heard me say before, think you can be exposed to something once and you got it, is a little bit naive at best. And so my nugget of wisdom for you is, if you want to grow in an area of your life, find the topic or the subject or the thing that you want to learn and expose yourself to it over and over and over and over again. Right? Maybe you've heard it said, repetition is the mother of retention. Repetition is the mother of retention. That if you want to retain something, you hear it over and over and over again, right? This is well understood in the advertising world. If I was to say to the average person who lived in the 70s, or if you lived at least in the 70s, maybe you know it today. What's the best part of waking up? The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. You heard that over and over and over again. And through repetition, your heart retained that information. And now, unconsciously, you actually, if someone was to ask you that question, you probably would answer it internally, even if you didn't answer it verbally. Well, that's how we learn anything and everything. And sometimes we are so quick to get the result. We're so quick to get the answer. We're so quick to get the outcome that we want. We don't spend enough time being exposed to the information again and again so that we can get the aha moment. You know, you've ever been reading a comic book? I mean, again, I don't know the last time I've seen a comic book, but maybe you remember back in the day, the newspapers would have comics in them, every newspaper. And sometimes in the comic book or in the newspaper, you would see the comics and there would be a little light bulb above the head of the character. And what that light bulb meant is that the person got it. They got it. Well, that's kind of how we learn. See, we don't learn by just being exposed to information. We learn when we get it. We learn when we get the understanding, when the light turns on, right? And so I guess my encouragement is, if you feel there's an area of your life that you've not mastered, there's an area of weakness that you have, and you've willed, you've resolved to change that area in your life, and it's almost been impossible. I'm going to encourage you, don't stay in Romans 7. Don't go to Romans 7 and just start quoting the things I wanted to do, I couldn't do, and so on and so on, and accept that this is just the reality of my life. How about accepting some other scriptures like I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me? Other scriptures like be transformed, how? By the renewing of your mind. And so, if you want to change an area of your life, one of the ways to do it is to change your heart belief about that area. One of the living authors that I like is John Piper. My favorite writers are all dead. But if I have to think of people that are living that I like, John Piper would be one of them. Maybe in the top 20, maybe the top 10 of living authors. And John Piper wrote a number of books, but one of them had to do with how to deal with sin in your life. And he shared, well, he's had a lot of books on that topic, but the idea of instead of, on how to pursue pleasure. I don't even remember the title now. This is a book I read a long time ago. And the idea behind the book, or in the book, is this, that if you want to change an area of your life, don't just focus on getting rid of the vice or the bad, negative behavior or negative thing. Yeah. Focus on adding something positive in your life to replace that. And so, if there's an area of your life where you're like, man, I really want to change this area, and I've tried everything, maybe what you need to change, you need to realize is the reason you're still struggling, or there's still a challenge in that area, is we actually do what we believe. And our beliefs affect, and how we think about things, how we think about ourselves, has everything to do with how we change our behavior. So, nothing that really matters can be learned with one exposure. And once you understand that, then texts like Proverbs 2 come to life, right? Where it says, first of all, we're told in the book of Matthew, we're told to ask and to knock and to seek, right? Ask and keep on asking, knock and keep on knocking, seek and keep on seeking, right? And the idea is, if you seek, you'll find. If you knock, it will be open. And if you ask, you will receive. Well, the tense of those is doing it over and over again. And if you want to change an area of your life, the way to change that area of your life is you need to continue to soak yourself in information around that topic or that subject if you want to see change. See, it's not just changing the way we think in our heads that brings change. It's the way we think in our hearts that brings change. And if the actions or the fruit that you are seeing in your life is something that you don't like, don't just deal with the symptoms on the tree. Don't just resolve to do better. Don't just commit to do better. Ask God to show you how to change the way you think about that thing, how to change your heart. And this is what I believe the Bible means when it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5, right? There's a reason the actions that we do, the vices, are called works of the flesh. But the change that we produce is not called the works of the Spirit. Even though the Holy Spirit is the one that produces it in the life of the child of God, it's called the fruit of the Spirit. Fruit. As I said yesterday, it takes time for fruit to grow. So, again, we don't learn anything by being exposed to it once. And if you want to grow in the knowledge of God, in the fear of God, for example, right? As Proverbs 2 says, you have to search for truth like you would for hidden treasure. Right. All right. So Jasmine,
yeah.
Since I want to pull you on camera, you said that the way that we learn something is what?
Repetition.
Repetition. And what does that mean to you?
What you said.
What I said. Very good. Good answer. Hey, Gordon. So question for you. What's your favorite subject? Just in general, in school, what's your favorite subject?
Lunch.
All right, smart Alec, lunch. Okay, as far as something you're learning. Lily, what's your favorite subject?
Reading.
Reading is your favorite subject, okay. And Jasmine, now, what's your favorite subject as far as something you learn in school?
ELA.
ELA. What is ELA for somebody like me?
English,
language, and arts? Okay, so you like 3 subjects at one time.
No, it's the same thing.
It's the same subject?
Yes.
English, language, and arts.
No, English, language, arts.
Okay, what do you learn in that particular class?
Writing and reading and all that.
Okay, writing, reading. Okay, so do you like to read?
Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of slow.
No.
You don't really like reading, do you?
I do. It depends on what kind of book.
So do you like learning? Would you say you prefer to learn or you prefer to be entertained? Which one would you lean more towards? Entertained, right? So you like reading if the book entertains you.
Yes.
If the book is fun, and if the book is playful, and it's something that brings pleasure.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't describe it that way. That's how I would describe it. Right? So if you had to learn something or have fun with a book you read, you would lean more towards the latter.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So when I asked you if you like reading, did you interpret that? Well, you were slow to. Why didn't you just say yes? You like reading?
Oh, because you want me to read different kinds of books that I don't really care for.
Right.
But
so
if I pick out the book, then I'll like it.
So you like to read the books you like.
Yeah.
But I make you read books you don't really like.
Yes.
And one of the philosophies in our homes is what? Doing
things you don't like to do builds character.
Doing things you don't like to do builds character. So if you told me you didn't want to read a book, what's going to happen?
I'm gonna read it.
I'm probably going to do what?
Make me read it.
Make you read it, right? And why? Because what am I trying to build in the end? What's the end result that I want?
Character.
What? Character. So learning, again, this gives us a good nuance, right? Because in the Bible, you don't know something until you what?
Do it.
Until what?
Do it.
Do it. So most people hear learning, right? When I say learn things that matter, they think just getting information into the head. But when I talk about learning, biblically speaking, we're talking about what? Knowing is doing. When you know something, you do it. So the way someone knows they know something is to look at the fruit or the results of that information or education in their life. Right? And this is why Peter says we ought to grow in the knowledge of God. Peter's not saying just grow in more information about God. Peter's talking about growing in experience with God. We're to grow in the knowledge of God. So I'm about to jump off. Any last words you want to tell these fine people? Besides wanting to be seen on camera now.
No, just yeah.
By the way, why do we go to church?
To learn about God.
To learn about God. What kind of talking is that? Is that how you talk?
No.
Do you guys have masks?
No, they give you mass.
Are they going to give you a mask when you go inside?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take my own. So, guys, I hope you heard something that may be helpful. You learn nothing that really matters without what? Without being exposed to it more than once. You learn nothing that really matters hearing it for the first time or once. And biblically, here's a principle of Scripture. We learn line upon line. How? Precept on top of precept. So the way that we learn is line upon line, precept on top of precept, right? And so if you are going to learn something that's sophisticated, that's above your age level, grade level, experience level, knowledge level, you got to start by laying the foundation so you can grow. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Any last words? Lily, do you have any last words for these fine people?
Yes. Bye.
What? Bye, that's it? That's your last words?